Hey, so how are you guys feeling today? I know it is still feeling really unstable. The energy's kind of, 1 minute you're up, the next minute you're down. And so we're used to these roller coasters, but I feel like, and Spirit's just saying that there's a huge emotional component to this again. So we definitely are, we've just finished the lunar eclipse, that kind of energy. Now we're coming into the solar eclipse, which will be happening this Saturday. So it's kind of like we're in between, right? It's this in between the light and in between the dark. Spirit's calling it in between a rock and a hard place. So when you think about that energetically, and let me know in the comments if you're feeling this, when you're in between a rock and a hard place, what happens? There's like, Spirit's just saying there's nowhere to go but up. Let me know if you're feeling that. If you're feeling like the light is the way, like up is the way, like through, my salvation, through my heart center, through my intuition, is that the way? Is that the way that I go up? Sometimes it's hard to find that though, right? Sometimes it's really, truly hard to know the way, right? It's hard. And because we have so many emotional components, so many emotional factors to everything that we experience, it really kind of jumbles everything. I'm kind of like jealous of those who can be very non-emotional, right? Those who can be very, it is what it is. Because obviously it's much easier to have clarity when you don't have a whole bunch of emotional aspects wrapped around it. And I don't know about you, but I feel this time of year, every year, when we're going that, the lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse, that big, March 21st energy date. My birthday's on March 28th. So it's always a big thing. My mom's birthday was April 5th. So there's always, like, for me, a whole bunch of significant events at this time of year. And they all have very strong emotional components to it. Like there's always like this sense of time speeding up, not enough time, things that I regret, things that, that I wish I would have done differently. It's kind of like that. And I feel like Spirit just keeps on saying things are being brought into the light of day. So that's probably what we're going to be feeling. Like at our core, we're going to be having like all of this kind of stuff coming up, and this is not the first time. This happens all of the time. It's not like this is a, one-time event only that this is happening. It happens all the time. But the purpose of it is when we're doing the work as souls, when we're doing the work as ascending empaths, ascending souls, right? When we're going through this ascension process, the whole idea is that we are doing the work. So healing the traumas, healing the wounds, releasing the fear, letting the anxiety clear, becoming one with body and mind, like all of the things, all of the purposes that we have. And then the collective energy, healing the planet, healing your family, healing all of it. When we start to do more and more of that, as we come through these big energy, cycles, it's supposed to get easier. It's supposed to get lighter. We're supposed to be able to, it's kind of like, when you have a job and you're like getting through the workload. And as you climb up the ladder, your position gets better and better. There's more pay to it. There's less work with it. That's how we think it should be, right? But think about that for a minute. It's probably the opposite. Thanks, Spirit, for showing me that. But if you're working for something, if you have a business or you have a company and you have a position and you start at the ground floor, things are probably much simpler, much easier, right? By the time you're doing really, really well and you're expanding, there's probably multiple facets to your business, multiple facets to your company. So there's probably a lot more going on, which means more responsibility, more. So does that make things easier? Do things get easier? Spirit's just saying yes, because what happens is we become adaptive to that stuff, but we also gain experience, right? We also gain strength, clarity. Our intuition gets stronger. Our, vibrational frequency is easier to get into sync, into alignment with our higher self. We can get out of the ruts or out of the dips quicker. That's what's supposed to be happening. That's kind of like the gauge we're supposed to be using. Now, when we are in one of these kind of like in between cycles, in between the dark and the light, we're going to feel that kind of squish, that kind of push, that kind of like, you might find yourself asking questions like, is this enough? What I'm doing, is this enough? Am I fulfilling my purpose? Right? Do I have regrets? This is, I wasn't going to share this because I'll probably get really emotional about it, but I'm going to share it because they keep on saying it to me. So my mom passed away in July, on July 29th. And most of you guys know this if you've been following my story. We battled cancer, leukemia for 14 months. And during that time, so, before she was here with us, we were on the phone like multiple times a day. We were FaceTiming and we were talking about how we were going to play cribbage together. And so if you guys have ever played this, it's a card game. I've never actually played it, but I've watched my aunts and my mom play it my whole life. It was something that they would do. And so my mom and I would talk about it and we would be like, okay, so when we're together, we're going to play cribbage. We're going to play some cards together. And just this sense of like, nothing else matters. We're just going to sit and play cards. And so then, of course, life gets in the way and, she came home to us and then it became doctor's appointments and specialist appointments and chemotherapy and, all of that stuff, right? Everything just kind of got in the way. And, we never played cribbage. I bought the stuff, I got it, and we never played it. And it's a huge regret for me because I feel like we have to prioritize things sometimes and we have to be like, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. This only matters right now. And so feel into that. If there's regrets that you're having around things, is that like, to me, that's a big thing. So to me, family is really, really important. Slowing down and, cherishing the small things, the little things, the things that are easy, right? Sitting down and playing cards, how hard is that? It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to schedule for it. Things like that. That's what's going to help us right now. That's what's going to help us the most. But Spirit's just showing me that regret. So think about energetically regrets, how laboring they are, how taxing they are, how debilitating they can be to us. So feel into that because I feel like this coming into the light is going to be about helping us to heal that, to really, really heal that in ways that we maybe haven't been able to before. And remember, this shows up in the dream state as well. There's so much healing that's happening in the dream state. Pay attention to that as well. Sending you guys huge, huge blessings.